Members will form the quorum and is also the appointed time. May I call meeting to order? First, can we confirm the minutes of our last meeting, please, held on the 30th of September 2014. The minutes have been circulated to members, and the Secretariat has confirmed that no proposal for amendments has been received. So can we endorse the minutes, please? Mr. Hon TANG Ka-piu moves. All right, so minutes are confirmed. Let us welcome the administration. Members, I have indicated my intention to speak in the security panel, and there may be a motion for us to vote on. So when it is my turn, I have to adjourn the meeting for about 10 to 15 minutes, and also I may have to suspend the meeting when when I have to vote. Okay, I believe we've all read the paper, so I think we can skip the introduction. On the 30th of July and the 10th of October, we have raised some concerns, and the administration has given us a reply in paper CB 188/1415(3). Administration, please introduce the paper to us. Thank you. Chairman, I don't think I really have to walk members through the paper because it is quite straightforward. But in the last two meetings, there were some issues frequently raised by members, so perhaps I should highlight them. On page 1, one of the amendments of the bill is to streamline procedures and to encourage the use of electronic means of communications so as to drive down the administrative costs. Members asked to what extent. So if there can be if electronic communication can really fully replace paper communication, we believe the savings will be equivalent to 0.02% of the system-wide net asset value per annum. That is a conclusion by a consultancy study earlier on. And on page 3, Mr. Sin Chung Kai raised an issue. If a scheme member has lost consciousness, then he may have to withdraw his accrued benefits. But if he is already incapacitated, what should be the procedures to follow? And I'd like to reiterate that under the mental health ordinance, he may apply to the court for the appointment of a committee of a state to deal with his accrued benefits. Regarding the time required, it is hard to tell now. It depends on the circumstances of the case, so I cannot give you a very rigid answer because it depends on the cases, the circumstances of the case. But should there be such a need, we believe once the committee of a state is established, the trustee will process the case very expeditiously. There won't be any delay on the part of the trustee. So I have already highlighted the more important points, and if members have further queries, I am happy to answer them. All right, 10 minutes each. Mr. Tang Ka-piu. Thank you, Chairman. All right, there was rather protracted discussion on the following point, and that is whether this bill will enable the administration to have greater power to seek information on the operation of MPF schemes. However, according to the administration and our legal advisor, the administration is already empowered to do so under the existing legislation. However, I asked written questions in LegCo, hoping to seek some very general information. For instance, the accrued benefits, the rough amount of accrued benefits of a person, of a scheme member upon retirement. However, the reply has been very simple. The information required to be provided by the trustees do not contain such information. And now you say in your paper that we can seek information from the trustees. Now, under the relevant legislation, the authority may seek information from the trustees. Is it that you don't want to do so due to the question of course? Is it that you don't have any power? So I'd like to know what is the real reason. Deputy Secretary, perhaps I should give the floor to Mr. Machine from the MPFA to answer. Mr. Machine.
Thanks. The issue goes to, as the Honourable Member points out, there's partly a question of power and partly a question of what data is obtained under that power. You're quite right that there's no lack of power in terms of the authority asking the trustees for information, and they're obliged to provide information that's in their possession in relation to schemes. Now, practically we do this two ways. We have a long-standing series of things we collect every month or every quarter periodically, and the trustees know this, and they develop systems that provide us with that information. So there's a lot of information we have, and we provide data and responses to LegCo questions in relation to that data that we have and we require on a periodic basis. There are occasions, of course, and this I think the problematic areas that Mr. Tang refers to, is that sometimes questions or queries are raised about material that we don't have because we've not collected that as part of the normal process. In some instances, we do go back to trustees if it's obtainable and get that question, get further information as requested. But it's not always the case that it's easy to do. For those pieces of information we collect regularly, then of course the trustees have developed systems to go and get that. If we have ad hoc inquiries, they need to develop some IT macros or something to interrogate their own databases and develop that to go and find the information. So it sort of depends on the complexity of the issue. Sometimes that would take a long period of time to get, as you know, and sometimes that's quite easy. Having regard to the sort of questions we do get, we do periodically change that. For instance, one of the more recent changes we made in the last 12 to 18 months was to collect more information about the types of offsetting and payments that go out on other withdrawal grounds following a series of questions. So we do update that as we go. So the member's perfectly right. It's not a question of lack of power. It's a question of what we collect periodically and the cost-benefit analysis on any individual case of going out and doing the data analysis of the existing databases to try to get that on an ad hoc basis.
Any follow-up? Please be more specific. So this has nothing to do with legislative amendment. That means you already have the power to seek such information. So if you have discussed and what new information you want, you can tell the trustees to collect that for it. It has nothing to do with the bill. Is it true? If that's the case, I will not pursue her. I will do it on another occasion. It appears to be the answer. Can you please confirm whether you already got the powers now? It's just that it is not relevant to the bill. DS, I'm not the only one. I noticed that many members have tried to see information from the authority. Administration, do you have any role to play in this regard? We try to strike a balance. Whether we want to raise the administrative cost as a whole, we are happy to discuss with Mr. Tang to see what sort of information is required and that is useful to enhance the transparency of the system to the public. We're happy to discuss with Mr. Tang. Dr. Ka-piu, the administration's reply is highly acceptable because many contributing employees are of the view that the MPF schemes is just like a black hole. When we want more information, you say that this may increase the administrative costs. This goes against the administration's pledge to enhance the transparency and attractiveness of MPF schemes. Regarding electronic communication, according to the administration, you can lower the make administrative savings equivalent to 0.02%. I'd like to know to what extent are you going to implement this, because some grassroots employees may not be able to access information they required by electronic means. If the fund manager or the trustee has failed to provide paper information or paper communication to such employees, I think you're going to deny them of their basic rights. In many public organizations, including this council, anyone who are scheme members are entitled to choose the mode of communication they want, either electronic or paper. But if electronic communication is going to fully replace paper communication, it is not acceptable to some employees. So please clarify. Regarding people who have lost consciousness, well, you tell us that you cannot give us any time frame as to when an application can be processed. I think it takes only a very short time for a medical doctor to confirm that a person has lost consciousness. So it's impossible that you can't give us any time frame. So I'd like to know whether the main delay would occur at the trustee. If the delay is unacceptably long, then I think the administration or the authority has the duty to review this. You shouldn't say that we don't know how long it is going to take. You must give them some guidelines. If you don't have any for the time being, you must make up some. And regarding a response 1B, from 03 to now 11 years, you've only cancelled 16 schemes and 104 constituent funds. And from July 07 to September 14, the percentage dropped from 2.1% to 1.68%, and that's about the MPF fees. Right, you have cancelled 16 schemes and 104 constituent funds. What is that compared with the total number of schemes and funds you have? Is it true that by cancelling less efficient funds, you have been able to lower the administrative fees? Now, I am not saying that this reduction from 2.1% to 1.68% is unreasonable, but I just want you to clarify.
Yes, thank you. In relation to seeking information from fund manager or trust manager, well, we do not disagree with that. It's just that, of course, obtaining information will attract cost, but we don't say that we don't do it. And we would like to talk to Mr. Tang Ka-piu as to what extent the information relates to. We will fully cooperate with him, and there won't be obstacle in terms of policy. And in relation to electronic communication, the scheme member will have the autonomy and the choice to choose question of the last time was that there was legislative amendment whether we can quantify this cost save by electronic communication. We have taken reference from the study, and if there is a full substitution of paper communication, there will be a saving of 0.02%. My question was, if a member chooses to use paper communication, nowadays banks will charge the client. So in the future, will you charge if you request paper communication, or will there be an increase in cost? It doesn't say in the law that a charge cannot be levied if paper communication is elected, but we think that not all of them will attract a cost. Can you give me some figures? Yes, we'll go back to find you the figures. DS, well, please hold on. I will give you 5 more minutes to reply to the questions. In relation to loss of consciousness on page 4, well, it's not the case that the medical practitioner will find it difficult to judge whether someone has lost consciousness under the MHO. It's the case that if an application is made to appoint a committee of the estate, it will take time to fix the case, and there will be different hearings. There are many authorities in cases when we see that there is a high degree of complexity. Say, for example, if it's a big family and if there is a fight for the estate, they will take longer. If the household is smaller, then it may take shorter. Well, as to the time it takes, well, it depends on the judiciary as to when a hearing can be fixed. So can you give me the time range? Do you have an estimate? We've asked the judiciary. It's a big range. So from several weeks to several years? No, not as short as several weeks. So I think we're talking about months. So you don't rule out the possibility of years. In simple cases, it won't take longer than a year. In simple cases. And the last question is under 1B, the cancellation of 16 schemes. Perhaps we did not word it clearly. We have adopted multi-pronged approach, and we've done a lot to force the sector to drive down cost. Say, for example, the employees' choice arrangement. As we've said last time, the most important thing is for scheme members to consolidate their accounts, because currently a person may hold 6 to 7 accounts. And this will keep the administrative cost high. We have adopted a number of initiatives, and we have succeeded in bringing it down from 2.1% to 1.68%. We would like to emphasize that consolidation of accounts will further drive down the cost. We have received about 30,000 applications after our publicity campaign, and this is something that we'll continue to do. Any other questions? Well, if not, then we can move on to the clause by clause. You may still ask questions later. Let's start the clause by clause, and I'd like to remind the administrations that there are some deputations making comments on the 7th of October, and you have yet to answer their comments. Well, perhaps we will go through the Chinese version and wait for the legal advisor to look through the English for us. That is the usual approach. If there are no objections, we will take this approach. Thank you. We'll first quickly go through each clause. When it comes to their objective, we will also ask the MPFA to go into the details when it comes to regulation and operation. The DOJ will explain about the drafting and technical amendments. First of all, the object of this bill is to amend Cap 4 285, that is the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Ordinance. One of the objects is to provide for benefits withdrawal on terminal illness and by installments from mandatory provident fund schemes, and on terminal illness from certain schemes under the MPFS exemption regulations, and to provide for time calculation, documentation fees and penalties, and electronic communication for administration of MPFS, to provide for constituent fund approval, information disclosure and enforcement in respect of those schemes, to amend the occupational retirement schemes ordinance to provide for disclosure, and to make technical, related and consequential amendments. Well, if you would like to ask questions at a certain stage, please raise your hands. Otherwise, I'll take it that no question will be raised. Please continue. Clause 1 is the short title and commencement of the provisions. Under 1(2), subject to subsection 3, this ordinance comes into operation on the date to be appointed by the Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury by notice published in the Gazette. I prefer to use the markup copy. Well, let's see what members have to say. It will be easier for us if we use the markup copy. Maybe you should first use the markup copy and tell us the page number so that it will be easy for us to refer to. In relation to commencement, for a number of provisions, the Secretary for FST will appoint the operation date by notice published in the Gazette. Say, for example, the withdrawal on Chairman. Perhaps I will now ask members to refer to the markup copy. Page 1. Page 1, interpretation. The arrow. We will add an explanation in relation to accrued benefits. Is page 1. So is paper number 2021/13-14 bracket 01? Yes. Perhaps let me make it clear. Just now, what was said was in the blue bill, not in the marked up copy. And then we just moved on to the marked up copy. Well, maybe we'll I'll give you some time, 10 minutes to digest.